Right, class. I'm back for another philosophical insert. This should be Philosophy 24 that we're going to begin and start. Um, it's going to be full blown uh, verbal lecture without the fancy dry eraser markers. They seem to be out of stock. Uh, from where I'm getting them from. So we're going to get back in stock with our supplies. Very much needed soon. The other markers didn't well over well, but we were able to suffice. Right? So, with no further ado, picking up where we left off with the Ascended Masters, right? In spiritual divorce, uh, to be able to um, divorce your old self, right? And the things that are tied to the old self that would hold you there to your old self. Hence the art of letting go, right? So the spiritual divorce in the process of becoming an ascended master and remembering, realigning, um, recommitting, renewing of your vows from all the debauchery of your fleshly actions and worldly actions and behaviors, in divorcing those things, cleansing, forgiving thyself of thy sins, uh, and realigning and recalibrating with the ascended masters. And I'd like to give a special thanks to the leader of the Legion of the Ascended Masters up top, maybe, which would be known more familiar to all as Jesus, Jesus, Emmanuel, Yeshua, King of Kings, Prince of Peace, up top, babe. I love you substantially. I substantially love you as you have taught me. Yes, up top. This particular topic here is going to be a sector. And what I mean by a sector is it's going to more likely it's going to boil over in a sector to seven philosophies altogether, right? All of one, source of one, all of one, source of one, altogether. Yes. Divine love, divine protection, divine healing, divine strength, divine forgiveness to all that seek to hinder the path of spiritual life. Yes. This subject here is very near and dear to me spiritually. And this reminds me of the perception of the illusion of my younger days, forever present. We do not age, we are ever present. The light uh, is eternal. Uh, but according to the flesh and the perception of my flesh, my younger days, this topic is, like I said, all of them are my favorites, but this is also my absolute favorite. So, as I was seeking literature the other day, as I was walking through, I seen this model, and it was all the other planets within our solar system. They were staged, You know, I didn't know which planet was what because they're differently uh, color coded, of course. So naturally, I resonated with what was near and dear to me. And this was the first one that I touched on display. Um, and it is indeed the planet Mars. Up top, baby. Yes, up top. Yes, it's indeed the planet Mars. So I knew spiritually that I was being guided to express uh, the internal knowledge that I've gained spiritually from this subject. And as my children know, when they were not yet the perception of them being grown adults now as children, uh, when they see this, they know this this story, this lecture, all too well, right? Of course, and it's gonna be over um, Mars and the Earth. It's pretty in depth. It's philosophical. It's scientific, and it's indeed spiritual. Excuse me, and it's tied to the ascended masters for sure. So, as we all know, there are uh, pyramids on Earth, correct? Yes. The pyramids are located in Egypt, also known as Kemet. And I'm talking about the Great Pyramids, the great alignment of the pyramids of Giza that are aligned in a section with Orion's belt. So below, so is above. So is above, so is below. Hermetic philosophy, right? These are indefinite signs and infrastructures for us to see with our physical eyes to help in the remembrance of our divine lineage of ascended masters. Great things were also taught in the school of mystery, which is also in Egypt, correct? Yes. And all over the world, the mystery schools. Thus, the academy was also uh, birthed uh, the precept of also being a mystery school of ascended masters, correct? In no offense to any religion or culture or perception thereof of a person's personal belief. Full spiritual, here we are, so we can open up these doors. Now, with that being said, we know that we have the three great pyramids aligned in Egypt that are perfectly aligned with Orion's belt in the sector, uh, in the alignment of three stars. You know, one, two, three above, one, two, three below, right? So above, so below, the philosophy, the geology, the spirituality as such. This is marking from above and below, right? Spiritual, physical, right? Up top, correct. Now with these three alignments here, right? And we have on Earth, you can travel to these places and see Google Earth, you can travel digitally to these places and see now and view these places uh, for yourself. They're there. The math is there, right? Okay. Now, with that being said, we're going to go from Earth to Mars. And it has been um, astronomically discovered that to travel from Earth to Mars, let's say by propulsion of ship, would take about 7 months, right? Give or take a few decimals, right? In AU units, right? 7 months from Earth to Mars, right? Propulsion. Okay. What has been discovered in my research as far as spiritual studies, studying Egypt, studying the Bible, ancient religious studies, correct? Yes. This is how it's come about in the immense uh, perception of the 30 plus years of time of study and collectively uh, putting it together. Again, like I said, all those pieces fit. There is a place, if you Google, called Cydonia, Mars, one of my favorite places. Yes, Cydonia, Mars, right? And Cydonia is a place that is close to a terrestrial plane, right? That has the same infrastructure that's in Egypt, meaning it has three uh, pyramidal uh, structures that also align with Orion's belt. So again, we have above and below, and then we have above and below the pyramids here also on Mars. Cydonia, uh, to be exact, uh, go to Google Mars, zoom in, take a look, and check it out for yourself. And you can see the layout and the infrastructure for yourself. Excuse me. Now, with that being said, um, one of my favorite portions of thought, right? Once discovering this, I spent 4 years of research on this thing. I was entranced by this subject and putting these pieces together. And I had the question myself, if there's pyramids on Earth aligned to Orion's belt, and there's pyramids on Mars built in the same measurements that align with Orion's belt, then these places that are not so far from one another, right, are connected. They're so close together. They belong with one another. They're connected, right? Yet the greater question of mystery that I scaled to was, how did they go from here to here? Because this is ancient. And how did they go from here to there? Because the overall question is, which set of the pyramids were built first? Were the ones on Earth built first? And then the pyramids on Mars? Or were the pyramids on Mars built first? And then the pyramids on Earth being built? It's more questions than there are perceived answers, right? Of course. So naturally, we would want to assume, in theory, that the pyramids on Mars were built first because Mars is a desolate planetesimal now without atmosphere, you know, a collection of oxygen and water, just the caps that we know of, right, that are on Mars, right, and such also here on Earth. So we're going to say that, okay, the pyramids on Mars are older because Mars, with all due respect, seems to be a planet that's not alive in retrospecting. And Earth is more alive, the atmosphere, the water, the plants, uh, the nature, the living creatures, correct? So the other question would also be, right, how did they get from here to here? And looking at Mars, it's like, oh, they couldn't walk the 7 months from Mars because the space. They couldn't swim, right? Because the space. Even with the philosophical studies of the waters, above the waters, within the waters. Even this is in the water. You couldn't swim on your own feet. You couldn't walk, you know, right? It would have taken some sort of subterranean form of mechanics and propulsion to propel oneself from one place to the other and build the same cultural infrastructure in the same mathematical alignment, so above, so below, in accuracy, right? Meaning we come from a place, right, of a stronger, greater uh, knowledge, purpose, values, traditions, and cultural aspects, and of a higher interdimensional intelligence, right? And most will say, well, it's not ours. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to someone else, this intelligence, right? One would want to be subject to believe such a thing. But as you can see from the Egyptian ancient hieroglyphics, these are a people with the same writings, the same cuts, the same building, the same scripts, right? So those things went from one place to a culture was kept, even through space, right? Which is absolutely brilliant. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. Right? Yes. The other greater question that goes deeper is the mathematical alignment. If you check the mathematical alignment, The pyramids are built in a diameter of geometrics that implicate the mathematical results of light speed. Yes, once discovering this through my research, I was even more fascinated. So, even more drawn into the belonging, right? Being a descendant of, direct descendant of, right? Light speed. In order to go from one place to the other, you would have to have the mathematical capacity of light speed, whether it was by uh, engineered propulsion or any form of energy, fusion, right? You would have to have the mathematical capabilities to do so. We know for a fact, of course, the ascended masters of that time had this kind of intelligence because the architect architecture and the building structure of the pyramids are mathematically aligned to Orion's belt, to the Earth's diameter, to the Earth's gravitational pull and tilt. They match perfectly with light speed. This is how we know uh, mathematically how they got from one place to another. And like I said before, one of my past philosophies, right? Uh, needing some form of capabilities, uh, whether a ship or what have interdimensional intelligence. Remember, right? Remember. Now, the spiritual aspect of this is also going to be tied into the connection of ascended masters to the degree of the Drake equation. Also, the Drake equation goes over the theory of the findings and studies from the answer of the equation that there are numerous other civilizations by calculations according to the Drake equation. Hence, the lineage of the ascended masters. Uh, you know, their hands of uh, creativity and the markings are they're everywhere, all over the wall, from place to place. And now we know it's not just from place to place on Earth; it's place to place, right? Even in space, right? Now, traveling um, outside of using a uh, mechanical or technological device to get to one place or the other would be uh, the transfer of light, teleportation, light speed, going from one place to the other, rapid motion, you know, quantum entanglement, the instantaneous thought of being propelled from one place to the other. Those are the ways of an ascended master, not tied to time, the body, right? Hence, uh, the art of letting go, right? The art of letting go is the way of the ascended masters and finding your way back in alignment, back to source, where you're not held or kept or compelled or confined to a place like earth, just like a confinement. So alignment is apparent for this. Now, with that being said, we're going to pause this insert before we go up further into the next uh, section of the sector of this topic that we are on. And I had to make sure that you guys caught on quickly to where we're going next, because this is a very, very vast topic that has to be broken down by numbers, places, space, time, diameter, equations, uh, prime meridians. It's a lot to unpack, but here we are, and I'm so glad to have you. And I'll see you guys in a few. See ya.